All right, let's get our other Facebook groups in here. Make sure everybody is all here. And we're spinning wheels 1 and 2. Welcome in, welcome in. It is Tuesday morning, the 7th, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell over here in Seattle, Washington. And on the other side of this screen here, Scott Kennedy out there in Atlanta. Scott, how are you doing? Good morning to you. Happy Tuesday. Keeping busy, I hear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Busy day. It's my wife's birthday, so I've already gotten up and made
Happy
breakfast. Got the
birthday.
kids off to school. Got about 4,000 steps in already today. Trash out. Articles written. Chelsea's playing Champions League today at 3:00 Eastern. So it is a good day. It is a good day. Blave Bliss. That seems like a new name. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos family. Good morning, Blave Bliss. I feel like we've got a Dave Bliss or Dave Glassman in here. So lots of new names.
Yeah, I recognize Blave Bliss, but good to see you. Hope you're doing well, and happy birthday to your wife, Scott. Of course, everybody in the chat, drop the happy birthday to Scott's wife. Also, we
And
got Jeremy.
if you want to move a house, let me know. So she's a hell of an agent. Worked her ass off to get a deal closed last week. She's pretty amazing. I'm biased. It doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Absolutely, and my wife's birthday is a week from tomorrow. So, all right, let's the 15th. Yeah, beware the Ides of March. Yep, exactly. Jeremy Sean, morning boys. Excited to hear about these bombshells. Yeah, it was some big information from Matthew Berry coming from the combine, and I don't like the clickbait kind of stuff, but I would say that this stuff it's some stuff that we've talked about on here, but to have a insider talking with sources at Indianapolis have this information is, I think, a big deal and worth talking about. So I do think bombshells. So we'll get into it. Mike Gibbons, good morning, Nick and Scott. Brad D's in the house. Good to see you, Mike. We got Brad D also saying good morning from snowbound Montana. Spring is coming, I promise. And here comes the sun. Chase Wellner talking about spring. We got Peter coming in here saying good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you. Richard, looks like an awesome, gorgeous canoe pick there with some guys fishing. Soon enough. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you, Richard. Shiloh coming in saying first time joining live in a while. Well, good to see you. Good morning, fellows. The dog says
I
hello.
remember that dog. I don't remember the name all the time, but I remember that shepherd always. You go shepherd, you won't go back.
Yeah, I do remember the picture. The dog says hello. It's good to hear. Hope he's doing well. She. Michael Ronquillo coming in saying good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Buckham. Buck you too, Michael. We always appreciate you. Lawrence, what up, my guy? And happy birthday to Scott's wife. Good to see that. Jesse Hilborn, morning, everyone. And our guy Miguel saying good morning, fellas. Hope everyone's having a great morning. Happy birthday, Mrs. Kennedy.
That still sounds weird. We met at work, so she kept her work name at work for a long time. So I'm still not sure. We've been married almost 25 years, and you want to make me sound like a complete idiot. Ask me to go into a bank and say, what's the account name under? I don't know, because I go by my middle name. So sometimes it's my first name. Sometimes she uses her old name. It's so anyway. Mrs. Kennedy still sounds like my mom.
Yeah, God. Mandingo Dan, good morning. Coffee tastes good. Ready for breakfast. Got to have that breakfast first, but both together, winning combination. Alex Salazar, good morning. We got one of our favorites, Michaela Israel, coming in saying good morning, guys. Good to see you, Michaela. Corey, also saying let Russ cook, but only recipes that Sean Payton chooses. I like that. Jesse saying their birthday is on the 11th, so happy birthday. I don't even know what sign it is right now, but you guys rock, I guess, because Scott and I both married them. So Pisces. I'm not into these.
I think it's Pisces.
Okay, that makes sense because I know that comes after Aquarius. So, and I'm an Aquarius. Robbie Red, watching from Bellevue, Washington. Hey, I'm waving at you right now from across the Lake Washington, one of the deeper lakes in the continental U.S. Saying, just Tariq Woolen from my apartment. Just saw Tariq Woolen from your apartment. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, Bellevue is a really nice, little bit more built up, clean version of Seattle. Pretty nice there across from Washington. However, getting across 520 is a nightmare. Not a fan of that. It's with all the construction, but I don't want to get too far into the the Seattle logistics. Zach Powers, morning. Good to see you. Philip Hagginson, good morning from Montana. Also, God, Montana's beautiful. I need to get out there, do Glacier like everybody else. Thought it was like the second most visited park last year or something, but it looks so beautiful. Joel coming in. Good morning from Houston. Good to see you. Greg, our guy Greg. Good morning. Broncos for breakfast. Good to see you, Greg. Albert Knopper's in the house. Dave Glassman. Jasmine's in the house. Man, we're killing
it. Good morning, Jasmine. Good to see you in the morning. She graces us with her presence about once every couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Comes in. So fellow, I've never even actually said the word. You said, they call it sometimes ATLian. Like alien with an ATL, Atlian. Anyway, we're both from Atlanta, so welcome.
Okay.
Good morning.
And we also got Sting Guy coming in. Good morning. A lot of people coming in, joining us, saying hello. If you guys would please drop a thumbs up, a like, share the show, and get it out there so we can, hang out with some more people in here. Although I do like the sometimes more isn't better, but you guys are a great crowd, and hopefully you can get some more like-minded people in here and just share it. We really appreciate that. But getting into it, the Combine has come and gone, and one of my favorite things about the NFL Combine every single year isn't just the data that comes out about the
What Nick is trying to say while his hamster catches up and hits that spinning wheel is it's not just the data and the testing results and all of that stuff that comes out that he really likes, but it's also the rumor mills. It's the coaches and everything going out and having beers together. It's basically a big job fair on top of that. Going out and, it's the lying season. We talk about the coaching season being the lying season. Also, when you're trying to get coaches and make all those maneuvers, well, now you're in player personnel. I'm going to draft this guy. I'm not going to draft this guy. I'm going to trade this guy. I'm going to sign this guy. You're going to sign this guy. They're trying to trade this guy. This is the off season of player movement when free agency opens, and that's when all the people are doing their best BSing is in Indianapolis at the Combine.
Yeah, absolutely. And all caught up here. First, we'll get to Mandango. Hey, guys, with Carr going to New Orleans, do we try to pick up Jameis? How does this game compare to Russ? Would the offensive line have to change, or could they run the same scheme? I think they could run the same scheme. Under center, vertical passing attack. Russell Wilson historically has been more athletic, but I don't know if that's the case at this point in his career. Jameis has always been more of a pocket passer with, big-bodied pocket passer, but I could see them fitting similarly. I would be curious if Jameis is looking for more of an opportunity than in Denver, but heck, maybe there is an opportunity out the Combine. Think about Jameis Winston, Scott.
Jameis Winston has played so well under Sean Payton that there's going to be a trust factor there. I want to go and play and be available where I have been the most effective. I think Jameis Winston, he's more mobile, but for some reason, Ben Roethlisberger, when I'm trying to think of comps for him, comes to mind real quickly, and Nick's pretty well frozen up right there. So I'm going to hit remove here and talk about Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston makes a lot of sense based on, like I said, the familiarity factor there. Talking about he had a 5-0. He wasn't quite 5-0, but he was 5-2, I think, as a starter before he got hurt. Played some of his best ball of his career. Might not be ready where I don't think he's going to get starter money from someplace. He'd say, hey, you can come in and compete. And I think he's got a chance to come in and, again, play under a coach where he had some of his most success. I think it makes a lot of sense as long as it makes sense with a C. As long as it makes financial sense, you go $3 to $5 million for a quality backup like Jameis Winston. I'm all in, Nick.
Yeah, Nick's router fund. I should have the extender coming. So hopefully that'll help. If not, we'll drill a hole. And if not, then I'm going to say, hey, Chad, you need to grab me a new computer, I guess, or something for work purposes. Gary Palmer, good morning to you, Gary. Good to see you. But getting into the rumors, there was an article from Matthew Berry, who I think everybody knows was on ESPN for a number of years, covering mostly fantasy football, but, goes to the Combine, NFL Insider. Now Matthew Berry is over there at NBC Sports, and you can find his article. I will drop it in the chat right now, so you guys can click on that. But he had 3 points about the Broncos on this article that I thought were worth getting into today. And we'll probably wrap it up a little bit early today because I got other things that I got to get to. But so shooting for 45 minutes. But points 8, 9, and 10 on here. Number 8 being about the relationship between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, which is probably the most interesting Broncos storyline this offseason. How those two are going to get along and the mashing of their schemes and just maximizing each other. So number 8 on this article from Matthew Berry saying, speaking of big name quarterbacks coming down off years, more than one person mentioned to me that Russell Wilson is basically on a 1-year audition. There's no way Denver can cut him after this season, but next year, while the dead cap hit will be bad, it could be spread out over 2 seasons that wouldn't be franchise crippling. Said one source, I don't think Sean Payton likes Russ. He's got 1 year to prove himself, or Payton will move on. This source pointed out Payton said multiple times in public on the record how Russ kept bothering Drew Brees. Payton tries to play it off for a laugh, but my source doesn't think Payton thinks it's funny at all. So a little bit of thinking in there from a source. Maybe there's nothing too concrete there, but that seems to hint that maybe Sean Payton isn't as fond of Russell Wilson, just the personality as much as anything. And that's a rumor we continuously heard during the coaching search.
Mhm.
We kind of put it away after the Broncos bought in Sean Payton, but a lot of people were saying, insiders were saying, Sean Payton might not come to Denver because I don't know if he wants to work with Russell Wilson. Not the biggest Russell Wilson fan. And now we have this.
Yeah, and StreamYard has been having a lot of problems lately. It's got me on one dot for internet, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
I can hear you. You're a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah, I think my gigabit speed isn't quite good enough right now. So we'll see if it decides to play nice. If not, boot me and I'll come back and stay. But there, we've said this all along, just based on financing. Forget what Sean Payton thinks about Russell Wilson. Forget it. Forget who the coach is. Forget all of it. They're exactly right when we talk about the money in the contract. Why would anybody want to come to this and be saddled with Russell Wilson? Because you're not. 1 year, and you can hit the nuke button. We've said that repeatedly. We see a lot of familiar faces in here. This is not the first time you've heard me say that. If you are here for the first time, welcome. And I will repeat, George Payton set this team up that a lot of contracts become very team friendly after the 2023 season. You're going to make a run at it for 2 years, and if it doesn't work, you're going to hit the reset button. They can do that. Yes, there will be a bad dead cap hit, but it won't be the worst ever. It will be manageable, and maybe you can move and get somebody else to help pick up some of the money on the salary. But what I'm saying is, forget what Sean Payton thinks. If Russell Wilson doesn't play better, period, he's done. It's 1 year, 2023.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it is interesting that, Sean Payton, we talked about it when we were discussing Sean Payton's press conference, or maybe it was Carl and I, how he played that comment about, Drew Brees is like, hey, please get this guy to quit calling me. I need him to do that. And they played it off as a joke, but I was like, man, I don't know if that is a joke. I mean, he could have been pretty annoyed about the badgering going on there. I was in mock trial. I was a big nerd in high school, middle school, right? And I sometimes would get badgering the witness because I wanted them to say something and I would not let go. But badgering them a little bit, not so great. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Luckily, he was going after Drew Brees. So again, there's some truth in all of those jokes. You kind of let people know that yes, I'm a little annoyed with humor, ha ha ha. But yeah, that was really annoying. And again, he doesn't have to be the biggest fan. This was what we said all along. This is a 10-year, this is a 10-year project. When a coach comes in, he wants to be here for the next decade. And he will outlast, if he has any kind of success, he's got more job security. Do you remember this? This was the one that was so bad. Do you remember when Sean Payton said something about that? Or someone, I don't remember exactly. Anyway, the point is, an agent from, I think, Russell's agency came in and basically said, well, look who's got more guaranteed money. Look who has more job security. And he got just railed. They're like, the new coach does, because Russell Wilson will be gone. He might get that guaranteed money, but he's got 1 year after the way he played. And Sean Payton will be there for more than 1 year. You cannot say the same thing as definitively for Russell Wilson. Yeah. Hopefully fits together nice and easy like this, and they're both playing well together, and it's all the happy marriage, and we can have the excitement for a good dude like Russell Wilson. I think we all want him to succeed. I mean, not everybody, but the neutrals for the most part don't think badly of Russell Wilson. He's a good guy. He gets a lot of hate, but from people that really they don't matter as far as I'm concerned. I think it was Manuelacho maybe that said, can we please stop picking on a guy that's not going to fight back? It's ridiculous. So anyway, there's my rant. Coffee's kicking in now, Nick.
Good to hear. We got Nigel Watts. I wanted to say hello to Nigel here. And he asks about, hello, Nigel. I'll take this up. 2 third-round picks. He's looking for defensive line and edge rusher. And I got to say, 3rd round here, Daniel Jeremiah, before the combine, talked about how good the edges could be in that spot for the Broncos. And there are a lot of edge rushers, but not so much on the interior defensive line. I'm going to throw out some names here. We'll see if any of these guys are actually here when the Broncos pick, 67, 68. But Keanu Benton, I feel like he's worked himself to the mid-second, but he maybe could fall to Denver from Wisconsin. We need to do a better job about naming those guys. Also, another name that I have circled there in that range is Gervon Dexter, who looks like Tarzan, sometimes played like Jane at Florida. But, I mean, how he's built, guys, he wins the beauty pageant and you want the first guy off the bus, and that matters. A lot of guys who look the right type of body type play better. You get bust that way as well, but you're talking early third round. So Gervon Dexter has the tools, just needs to put it together. Those are about the only 2 interior defensive linemen on my book in that range that I really am interested in. We'll see if, Mozzie Smith or Siaka Ika falls.
Sean Payton's not afraid to take a chance on a guy that's got some questionable, character issues in his background.
Yeah.
The Saints did that in the past, and that was part of the reasons they went from arguably the worst franchise in the NFL to one of the top franchises, is they took some chances. They needed to. When you haven't been to the playoffs in 7 years and you got a new coach coming in, you might take a chance on a guy like Mozzie Smith. And if it doesn't work, so be it. If it does, you got something there.
The thing about Mozzie is that I think he's more of he's a overlap of DJ Jones. You're looking for a 3 technique right now. You have a 1 technique. You even have a 0 in Mike Purcell if you want to run that. So not really the body types that I'm looking for. Granted, take good players if you're in the 3rd round. Just let it fall. I want to talk edge rushers, though, here, Scott, real quick, because I can go on for a bit, probably as long until my internet gives up on us. But around round 3, I mean, you're talking about potentially Isaiah Foskey, Felix Anaduke Uzoma. You're talking Zach Harrison. You're talking Byron Young from Tennessee. You're talking KJ Henry. You're talking maybe
Derek Hall.
You're talking Tuli Pelotu from USC. All those guys. Somebody's going to be there as an edge rusher early round 3 that I think is going to make a lot of sense for the Broncos. So edge is looking good. The interior defensive line, I think that's more of a round 4 or round 5 position. There are some guys that I like, but they're more round 4, round 5.
How much does someone fall in love with 6'5" and 285 pounds of Keon White?
I think top 40 level, top 50 level. I mean, we just talked about the beauty pageant and the tools. This is an athlete's game. I was listening to an interview with Bucky Brooks the other day, and he ran into his former head coach and friend, John Fox. And they were talking about the biggest difference that's happened since John Fox started coaching to where the game is now. And it is the discrepancy in athletes on the defensive line and the offensive line. And teams are just compiling incredible athletes on the defensive line. So somebody's going to take a shot on Keon White.
I've said that for years. There's 4-4 guys, and now it's 4-3 guys, everywhere. They're all over the place. They're at USC, they're at Ohio State, they're at Wisconsin, they're at Michigan. They're all over the place. That SEC speed that you hear about, that's not it. Everybody's got fast wide receivers and skill players. The SEC speed was in the trenches. It's in the front sevens. It's in your defensive tackle is my offensive guard in the SEC. He's not athletic enough to play defensive line. That's where you get the front sevens. Now, you may have one of those guys here or there across other places in the Big Ten. In Ohio State and Michigan, when they're recruiting at their highest, is a different level. But, you go down, you look at LSU, Alabama, Georgia, they've got speed across all facets of those. The athleticism that they have in their front seven is just different. That's what people mean when SEC speed. And those athletes, again, they're only getting bigger, faster, and stronger.
And then you have Iowa with SEC level defensive talent, but they're playing lower MAC level offense. What the hell's going on? I mean, those Iowa guys have been killing it at the combine. But offense, what the hell? Jesse, what about the combine about falling on the offensive line? Man, it's so hard because offensive tackle is a scarcity-driven position. But some names I would keep an eye on for the Broncos at pick 67, 68. DeJuan Jones, Jalen Duncan, and Matthew Bergeron. Very possible that all 3 are gone by the time the Broncos are picking. But if any of them fall, I probably would be very excited about that pick. And it would be like similar to last year where it's like, well, maybe Abe Lucas will be there. Maybe he won't. If he's there, you run the card up. And that's how I would feel about any 3 of those tackles there for the Broncos. We'll see if they're there. But I think it's more interesting on the interior. You have a chance to walk away with a plug-and-play starter, I believe, on the interior. Steve Avila from
That's who
TCU.
I was looking at too, Nick. That was the first guy I was going to mention. Steve Avila is from TCU, 6'3" and a half, just a shade over 6'3" and a half, so 5'8", 332 pounds, 33-inch arms, and he's just solid. Yep. Like, he didn't do anything that made you just eye-popping wow in either direction at the Senior Bowl. He was just good. Yep. I can live with that. I don't necessarily need to hear his name at all when we're talking about my guard. I think he is a plug-and-play guy on the guard, and if he's there, you'd be somebody that we've preached, you can get a starter at guard in the 3rd round. Absolutely, you can. You can get an upgrade on how they played last year. Now, I'm going to keep hedging on what I say about Dalton Risner. I'm not saying Dalton Risner is a bad player. I'm saying he has played poorly the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So Dalton Risner may leave and become a star somewhere else. He might. But getting an upgrade on the play that you had from him at left guard the last 2 years will not be difficult. Or center. It will not be hard to improve the play. Even if it ends up being Dalton Risner, I have faith he will be better than he was the last 2 years. But I've seen enough at the point of attack that I want somebody that's going to be a little more stout. Right, Nick?
My internet just a second. Hopefully can be okay. Right. I'm here. It's picking back up.
Yeah, this is getting tough, dude. Luckily, you and I are off until Thursday, so hopefully you can get that extender by Thursday, because it is getting tough. Looking at the center position, the good thing is a lot of those guards played center at the Senior Bowl. Do you keep do you keep Cushenberry one more year and maybe bring a guy that cross trains a little bit? Miners was brought in to be, provide competition at center, but he's found a home at guard. I don't want him moving to center. I want him staying at guard. He has found a home there. But watching as I'm going through all the reps at the Senior Bowl, almost all the guards played center too. When we talk about like Emil Ekiyor, Alabama, almost 6'3", 314 pounds, he played a lot of center. The kid at Michigan, Olu, we got Ade. We also got Olu, 6'2.5", 310. He wasn't bad. Very good flexibility out of Michigan. So again, you can improve your offensive line in a hurry with those third-round picks.
Yeah, you're 100% correct on that. Cody Mock, another name maybe there for the Broncos that could fall early third. You never know with those small school guys, so maybe he could fall. Luke Weipler.
I'd take him in a heartbeat. I haven't been talking about Cody Mock because I just don't think he's going to be there.
Probably not, but you just small school interior offensive line that is interior bound, playing a position he's never played before. I mean, that seems like something where there's a realm of possibility where he could fall to 67, 68.
How far did Miners drop? Was he
95 or 96?
Okay. Yeah, he was good. Miners was really good. I think Malk was better.
Yes.
At the Senior Bowl. And from what I saw coming in, I think Malk was better. And some of the success that those small school guys have had right away, Radens. Where did Creed Humphreys come from?
Oklahoma.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't small school. He was really good.
Yeah.
But Dylan Radens was small school, if I'm not mistaken. Quinn Miners, for sure. Spencer Brown. Some of these guys that have come in. Braxton Jones last year, Southern Utah, if I'm not mistaken. Some of these guys have come in and played really well that I think it's going to help a guy like Cody Malk. I wouldn't let him get to 65 if I'm on there. I'll tell you that much, Nick.
Yeah. He'd be a really good pick for the Broncos. Some other guys, offense, defense. We talked a lot so far. We didn't mention Joe Tippmann as a name as well. There's those often in centers from Big Ten, Tippmann and Weipler, John Michael Schmitz. There's some of those guys make some sense there for the Broncos. Other guys
ain't getting to 60.
Probably not.
Yeah, no way. I'll be a little surprised if Cole Strange can go in the first round. John Michael Schmitz can go in the first round. I know that's a different bar to set.
Yeah,
I could say that about a lot of guys because that was a pretty good reach. But John Michael Schmitz he's good. He's really, really good.
Yep. Center's so weird because it's such a shoulders above position that it's hard to say from where we sit. But from the tape, yes, John Michael Schmitz, early pick. Other players, Scott, that stand out to you? Third round after the combine?
Oh, let me see here. I mean, there's a bunch of them. You just wonder, again, I can look at that interior line and think there's a lot of them, which is what we've been preaching all along. We want to talk, this really looks like a bad board. Curtis McClendon. Sorry, I knew I was going to do that. His name's McClendon Curtis from UT Chattanooga, 6'6", 325. He was also very good at the Senior Bowl. Tested okay, not great. 35-inch arms, 5.24 in the 40, not too bad. 4.97 shuttle, okay. There's an Eastern Michigan kid, Saidi Sow, 6'5", 323, with a 4.69 shuttle and a 7.62 and a 5.07 40 time. That's not bad. With a 32-inch vert, that's a pretty good athlete. So that's a kid that helped himself as well too. There's going to be lots Lots. Preached it. I'm going to keep preaching it. Take your shots. I've said I want 3 free agents and I want 3 draft picks on the offensive line. Take your shots, and this offensive line will get better and better and better.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. I really think wide receiver is a position also that the Broncos might be considering early, especially if they are shopping Cortland Sutton, as is the 9th point here from Matthew Berry coming out of the combine saying, as long as we're talking Denver, told the Broncos are quietly shopping Cortland Sutton, not actively pushing him, but definitely trying to see if there's a trade market for him. If they can get a decent offer, they will move him. So looks like the Broncos are potentially looking to move on from wide receiver. ESPN yesterday did an article talking about how the Broncos maybe could make a move for Brandon Cooks, and also talking about 3rd round for the Broncos, some wide receivers that make some sense for them there. I adore Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in this class. Dealt with a high ankle sprain this last year, but his tape from 2021, he looks like a top 40 pick at wide receiver. Big athlete, tested extremely well. I mean, I really think Cedric Tillman's a very underrated wide receiver in this group. You have his counterpart, Jalen Hyatt, who probably slot bound, not really a great guy to beat off press, but round 3, speedster vertically. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the most underrated wide receivers in this class that had a great combine showing that didn't really get maximized at Oklahoma this last year. Marvin Mims, I think he showed out really well. I'm excited to see what he looks like going forward. And then Tyler Scott from Cincinnati is another name that I think everybody should keep an eye on there. 3rd round for the Broncos. And 4th round, another guy that I've been on for a bit after he absolutely beat the crap out of my Hawkeyes when we lost our cornerbacks 2, 3, and 4 in the game, but I digress. Trey Palmer from Nebraska, also fastest 40, I believe, at the combine this year, for sure for the wide receivers, but maybe overall ran a 4.33. So some good names there.
If I'm just looking purely on combines, Matt Landers from Arkansas killed it.
Yeah.
6'4.5", 200 pounds, 4.37 on the 40 with a 37-inch vertical. Can he walk and chew gum at the same time? Because that's a 1st-round athlete right there. Someone to keep an eye on for sure when you're talking about guys that showed up and were strong, like Gyla Maples here coming in, showing up strong for us, getting us started on the super chats. Thank you so much. We're going to put that towards Nick's internet and processor fund, his video card fund, because we're reaching a critical mass here on that one. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming in strong like that. And KB, Kenny Booker, 82, comes in with his super. He says, did you guys catch the Joe Rogan Wolf interview? I didn't, but I caught the Monday Night Mile High Huddle podcast, and they covered, that was what they did. They basically did an entire show on that podcast. That podcast covered that podcast. So they did an entire show discussing Derek Wolf and so that was Sunday night. I'm sorry, today's just Tuesday. So Sunday night's podcast. So if you haven't seen that, check it out, and you can get Chad and Zach's take on that one. Nothing surprises me. Hearing a lot of it was what these guys go through to get on the field and how they're basically put through the meat grinder and they're not cared about. That's just at the NFL level. This stuff happens before these kids hit double digits. Before the kids are, when they're 9 years old and they're out there, they're just, it's tough. It's a rough sport, and it's not just football that's like that. There's dads out there putting their kids out there when they shouldn't, throwing 100 curveballs and ruining their arms. And it's sports in general. The guys at the top are making a living, and they've got a voice. Hopefully better education from parents and more awareness of what's going on, and it'll help. More awareness will help that it's not worth it. It's not worth it that to get out there and play one more game could cost you your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin Wood coming in saying Sea Turkeys gave Geno Smith a big contract. Want him to revert to Geno of the past. I mean, they gave him a big contract, but it's only 3 years. I'm not sure what the guarantees look like, but because of the length of the deal, I think it still has them in the quarterback conversation, in my opinion.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's got a $50 million guarantee in the first year, basically off signing bonus and stuff. So he's getting $52 million up front. It's $100 million across 3 years. This goes back to our very first discussion about this. Do you sign Geno and go for the best player you possibly can in the draft at number 5 in order to try and run this thing for a playoff run with Geno over the next couple of years? I don't think you're signing him to that contract and then getting a quarterback to hedge for the future. I don't. Especially when you've proven, of course, the bigger factor here isn't 3 years on Geno Smith. It's how much longer is Pete Carroll going to be around? Because I was just about to say, especially when you've proven Pete Carroll can win with different quarterbacks. They can get Jimmy Garoppolo, a journeyman, Baker Mayfield in 3 years, this guy who's never quite put it all together and then goes to the Pro Bowl under Pete Carroll. I was just about to say that. And then I remembered, well, hell, if Geno plays 3 more years, Pete's going to be close to freaking 80. Mm-hmm. So, this is, I think, a 3-year window. Yeah, and then BK comes in. He says Pete's going to retire in 3 years. I think this is to make a run, Nick. I don't think they're in the quarterback market at all. They're done. They've done their shopping.
They should be. But I digress. KB, $2, saying Wolf microdose shrooms and Adderall every game. I don't know. I don't really do much besides, drink IPAs every once in a while. But as long as he's not hurting other people, then God bless him. But that's pretty wild to me. But God, he's a professional athlete and he's an adult, so he'll do what he does. But that is pretty interesting to hear. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. It's just, you never know. But yeah, Vincent saying Wolf maybe is one to exaggerate. Who knows? It made good TV, and we're talking about our good podcast, and we're talking about it now. I see some comments in here asking about running backs in the combine. I'm also seeing Derrick Henry conversations here. I want Derrick Henry so bad. And our final point here on this Matthew Berry article, and something that we talked about a lot, George Payton coach speak, ? Seems like it. So we had at the combine, George Payton obviously talked about how Javonte Williams is on schedule and how he's already running and how we expect him to be ready for week 1. And then you have the information coming out of the combine from Matthew Berry here. Point number 10 in this article saying, most fascinating nugget he heard from Denver and possibly the whole combine was Javonte Williams' health. And I'm told it's a very wide range of possibilities regarding his return. Just as we've said, Scott, there's a chance that he's healthy to start the year. There's a chance he misses multiple games. There's a chance he misses the entirety of 2023. I was told there's currently a lot more hurt than the team is letting on publicly, and the Broncos are secretly nervous. Don't be surprised if the Broncos wind up with Kareem Hunt when it's all said and done. Mike Boone is likely gone. Latavius Murray could be back in a Mark Ingram role, but Hunt, who is not expected to be back in Cleveland, is said to be a target for Denver. If Hunt winds up in Denver, my source said you'll know that Javonte Williams' injury is a lot worse than they are currently letting on. So
yeah, we'll know based on if they go after a free agent. That level of free agent will give us a good indication of what they think about Javonte Williams. Yeah. That said, you sign Mike Boone to a big contract to be your running back too, and then you draft a guy anyway. So if you've got the opportunity to get a good player at a good price, do it.
Yep. Get good players.
Stack good players. So while I said that, it doesn't guarantee anything. It's more of a hunch, kind of trying to state a little more clearly what Barry was saying there, which is the bigger swing, the more risk on Javonte. Maybe, but we've also said that Sean Payton loves using 2 running backs. Loves it. The Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, they combined for over 500 touches, a couple years. Yeah. It's an extension of the running game. It's not just all air raid. It's a lot of screen passes and arrow angle routes, wheels, having guys, I mentioned, Kenny McIntosh is a guy, Tajay Spears, if he falls to the third, those guys were good receivers and good in the open field. Somebody like that could be a weapon for them. So for the Broncos, we hope for the best, obviously, but you're going to have to hedge. If you've got a chance to sign Kareem Hunt at a team-friendly price, you do it anyway, Nick. You do it anyway, regardless of Javonte Williams.
Yeah, and Kareem Hunt, obviously we can't talk about with him without talking about the assault that occurred in that Cleveland hotel back in 2018 that led to the league suspending him for half a year, 8 games, and then also the Chiefs releasing him. To my knowledge, hasn't been any issues since then, but that's, you can't talk about Kareem Hunt and free agency and signing him without talking about that. So if the Broncos do sign him, that means that they've done their due diligence and they feel like he's made enough amends in that front. I know that the Broncos have a diverse range of opinions and backgrounds in their front office. And that was one of the big things about Deshaun Watson is that there was, from what I was told, people in the front office that pretty much said they would walk if the Broncos traded for Deshaun Watson. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, just some interesting stuff. I know that Kelly Klein is a name we've talked about on here a lot, and she is a very powerful voice and up-and-coming front office personnel person. So it will be interesting. If the Broncos bring in Hunt, that means that they must be comfortable with him and that he's, improved and they feel comfortable with who he is as a person. The other tidbit of information, the Broncos new running back coach, whose name is escaping me right now. They brought him in from Northwestern. He was Kareem Hunt's running back coach at Toledo. So you have a relationship there. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And the fact that they have familiarity with each other, I think is great. And that just goes, that's not even the football side of things. That's the person and relationship side of things. So we can get into
and running backs coaches are
how
usually the
Kareem
best
Hunt
recruiters
fit.
on the staff in college. So they develop relationships across, and they'll recruit 200 guys, so even if they didn't necessarily play for them, they'll have connections on there. So your running backs coach, bringing him in, is a relationships person, because frankly, there's not a lot of coaching to do for running backs. That's a position that's born. So they usually put their best recruiter as the running backs coach. BK coming in yella. He says, can't wait to hear more free agency and draft info from you guys. And I'm looking forward to diving in, and learning more about these guys. And we've got 2 months to really deep dive on draft and really have fun. And then we got another month to analyze it. So looking forward. It's going to be a fun spring, BK, and glad you're part of the show.
Yeah, we appreciate you, BK. And we also got Gatorade Gaming saying, how do you suggest we trade for Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry's 29 years old. He's got a $10 million cap hit, 1 year of control left, and coming off of a year of injury. I think one of your third-round picks should get it done. If maybe not even, maybe even they send back a sixth. Derrick Henry's has been great, but we saw, Melvin Gordon coming off of a massive contract just 2 years later signs for, what did he sign for last year? 1 year deal for $2 million or 2.5
plus incentives.
That's just 2 years after signing a deal that made him about, $8 million per year. So I think Derrick Henry's not going to cost that much. I don't think the Broncos should trade for Derrick Henry, just given the injury and where they're at. If they were a running back away from, being a contender, then that's a different conversation, but they are not there in my opinion. But I don't think it's going to cost as much for Henry as people would assume, just given the position he plays, injuries, and where the reality is of that position.
Who's a good team that can afford a luxury pick like Derrick Henry?
Oh, the Bills come to mind for me.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Eagles,
Buffalo
yeah.
Bills. There's a good shout.
Yeah, Bills.
So watch for one of those teams that could say, I'll give up a second-round pick to have 1 year of Derrick Henry. I think that would be good. Steven Jimenez coming in. Says, what about Taylor Lewan? Should we go for him? No. He's been straight left tackle his entire career, and he's been injured. So I think we've read something like 20 games in 3 years, so less than half. And straight left tackle has never played a snap of right tackle. You're not flipping Garrett Bowles over to right tackle either, so I don't think he solves the problem you have at right tackle. So I would say no on that one. Robert Woods, I'd be interested in. Good pro. You could get it for a decent price. If you could get him for a decent price, I'd be interested in Robert Woods, one of the other Titans that was Titans, Texans. I get those still confused sometimes. They're still connected in my head because they came from Houston and they were the Oilers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Titans. Colin Wood asking, Nick, you're in Seattle. Hearing anything about Seattle draft pick? I think they would love one of the big 2-3 defensive linemen in this class. Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson. I know a lot of fans that I work with in the office and friends here were hoping for a quarterback. I got a lot of texts about Anthony Richardson after his combine saying, oh my God, let's take that. But right now I think it's going to be defensive line, but we'll see. Gary Palmer, 1999, as we're starting to wrap up here. I got to get on out of here for work today, but 1999 saying, love Broncos for breakfast. You guys bring it. Love to hear more about free agency picks, MHH for life, Buckham. We're getting to the point now where guys are being released and we're going to have a better idea on the market. Also, the tag deadline is coming today at 2 p.m. So we'll have more information, even more tomorrow. But
yeah, thanks, Gary. Love you, dude. Hope you're having a good day. Benny coming in. Can we not ignore the fact that it seems free agent offensive players want nothing to do with playing with Russ? Says who? Free agency hasn't opened up yet. There's not a lot of openings on offense on the skill players. You could talk about running back. Can we not ignore the fact that people said that nobody wanted to come coach the Denver Broncos, yet you got the most qualified, highest profile coach in the league? Don't worry about what people are saying. Money talks, especially in free agency. Sean Payton will have pull. if the money is there and you decide to allocate your resources towards offensive players, you can get guys. It's free agency, so typically you have to overpay early. And you're not in a position where you're coming off an 11-win season where you could get Derrick Henry to say, yes, I want to go play Philly or Buffalo or someplace like that. Turn it around, become a team on the up, and you might be able to get a discount for aging veterans like that. You won't this year. But that doesn't have anything to do with Russ. That has something to do with you being 5-12. Denver is still a good situation, and I just think you're going to be spending money on the offensive line. If you're putting money into the offense, you're going to spend some on, you might spend some on running back, but you got to put money into that offensive line.
Backup quarterback, question mark, but also, yeah, maybe that too. Noah 72 coming in at 199. Sutton for Henry. Titans need receivers. I think, in my opinion, given the age and the positions that they play, Sutton is actually more valuable than Henry in a trade. So I think that the Titans would have to throw in like a 5th-round pick too, but you don't see player trades very often, so it's typically for capital.
Yeah, the Titans are trying to clear salary cap space because Tannehill still has a $40 million cap hit. So they're clearing space right now, and Sutton doesn't have a good enough contract. Sutton's contract right now is 15th, I think. Now a lot of that would be tied up in bonuses, so it would be base salary. But your contract, his contract will become more base salary as it goes further along. So the finances wouldn't work for Tennessee on something like that. And I love Derrick Henry, but he's a depreciating asset right now. And I don't think that's what you're looking for the Denver Broncos. You're looking for young, appreciating assets, as Nick likes to say, cost control guys. Keith comes in, and this might do it for us unless there's any last things. He says, do the Broncos take a chance on Andrew Voorhees, or is injuries too worrisome? Again, it depends on what you can get for him. It'd be a redshirt year. What did you think of him before, and where can you get him? Can you get him? Was he a 3rd-round guy that you could get in the 6th? I don't know enough about him to say how good he was to begin with, Nick.
He had some 1st-round hype back in like beginning of the season in November. I watched it and I'm like, yeah, I do not see a 1st-round player here at all. I see a late day.
I've told you about the hype coming out of the LA sports media. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's warranted, Caleb Williams, but you're absolutely correct on that. But Andrew Voorhees, I saw him as like I wouldn't have taken him when he was healthy with either of the Broncos picks at 67, 68. I think he was more of a 75 to 95 kind of guy. But now that he's been injured, you're not going to have clean medicals on him. We're talking 6th, 7th round, in my opinion. The fact that he went out there and lifted after he tore his ACL still, the front, obviously the bench press there. I mean, he's played multiple positions. Sounds like a great kid as well. I think he's versatile. He's just very ho-hum at all the spots. He's one of those ones that's a 10 of all traits, not even a jack, but a master of none that you like to have as a rotational back end of your guy. But I don't know if I see enough pop in his ability to be a starter.
We've talked about that with ligaments all the time. There's an initial pop that you can feel that hurts, but there's no nerves and ligaments. So, he's walking off under his own power. That's a good sign. Man, that don't mean jack. Let me see a stability test. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. And they're moving his knee around like this while his femur is staying in place. Anyway, am I surprised that he could still do that with the bench press? No, good for him. I think it's amazing mentally that he went out and did it. But Nick, this would get it for you. 6'6", 310 with 32-inch arms. 29-inch vertical, not bad. 8'9" broad jump, okay. So he wasn't necessarily an explosive athlete to begin with. Middle 4th, 5th round. I think he'll probably be in a UDFA with a redshirt year, would be my guess, Keith.
Yeah. Kansas City coming in and saying, you guys winning the AFC West this year? Nope. That's you guys. So God bless you. You think you're going to hurt my feelings? No, we are already here. We're already sunken in the sad place. But just accept it. But Scott, any final thoughts on the Matthew Berry article? 3 big, I think I would say bombshells, especially the Javonte Williams one, pretty much coming out and flat out saying George Payton is a liar, something that we kind of danced around when that information came out. Oh, George Payton says he's going to be back. Yeah, okay, that is 6 months away, coming off of a 2 ligament tear knee injury. I'm sure that we know Javonte Williams is going to be healthy. Yeah, right. Wink. That's any other thoughts on that though?
No, I think it's all pretty. It's just hearing stuff that there's more chatter going around. We're kind of the Broncos outsiders, but there isn't anything of those 3 things that we haven't already said. Okay. Russell Wilson, he's on a 1-year deal. Yes, he is. Javonte Williams could be, we're not counting on him being back. If he does, that's great. Cortland Sutton, quietly being shopped. Everybody's quietly being shopped. You get the right deal from anybody. You throw it up the flagpole and see what you get if somebody wants to overpay. So, there isn't anything in there that was staggering to me.
Yeah.
But good information. Verifies a lot of what we've been talking about.
Yeah. The Kareem Hunt, I guess, is the biggest tidbit of information connecting the Broncos to a specific player in free agency. And just before we get on out, Kareem Hunt, I think he'd be a great fit for the scheme. In college, he held the ball, I think, touched the ball 1,000 times and never touched it. And then how funny, the very first time he touched the ball as a rookie, he fumbled at Kansas City at the Patriots after never fumbling once in college. I thought that was hilarious. I loved Kareem Hunt coming out of that draft. I thought that he was in all my mocks in the 3rd round for coming out of Toledo. But he's a really good back between the tackles. He's really good in the passing game as well. He's not overly explosive, but he's really smooth. Sometimes you see running backs, and when they're trying to be a receiver, it just looks choppy, clunky when they transition from a route runner to receiver. It's one of the reasons that the gauntlet drill for running backs, I think, is so important when you look at those guys. How do they make that transition from bringing in the ball and running? But Kareem Hunt would be an interesting fit for the Broncos. The other one that I've heard linkage to the Broncos, again, another guy that the Broncos' new running back coach has coached in college, David Montgomery. He coached him at Iowa State. Not Dan Campbell. Matt Campbell brought him from Toledo to Iowa State, and that's a name to keep an eye on as well in the free agency market.
Yeah, someone else threw him in here. It might have been Michael in here. Now I can't find it. So it was a while. But yeah, I think it's a good point. That's a good one to close on, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate you coming in. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at MHH Pod, BFB Pod, and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod, and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And as the ticker says underneath here, please subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you guys again tomorrow on Scott's channel. We're going to run a mock draft, Scott. What's going on?
Yeah, we'll run a mock draft. We'll talk about some more of the big deals. Derek Carr. We'll talk about a little bit more about some Geno Smith. We'll talk some more combine as we finish it up, and we'll run through at least the top 10 again, and maybe talk about them a little bit. But we'll be back on youtube.com/Scott Kennedy tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern.
We'll be there. You guys have a great one. Until then, make sure you continue to choose kindness and compassion. I'm going to get it out of here before the internet drops for 5 seconds again. But appreciate you guys. The extender's on the way. Have a great one. Go Broncos.